right before we began, Dr. Jones Sneed and I were talking, and I was like, I can't believe this is like my fourth winter in the Berkshires. Um, and I did all of my graduate work in New England, but I'm originally from the South, Virginia and North Carolina, and that is where I consider home. And all through K-12 and for college, I went to public schools. I went to the University of Virginia. And so coming to the Northeast for my master's and my doctorate and teaching at one of the great colleges in the world at Williams, I am seeing that the efforts to quote unquote integrate and diversify that sadly were started decades too late, but are still ongoing and at least were started. That has yielded in the Williams population and in the population of the schools that I attended incredible gains. But the dissonance and the disconnect between what it means to bring students in versus what it means to support their growth and the resources and the centers and the foundations needed for a true diversity of experience, that is lacking, I think, in the American education system. And if it's lacking at the schools that I attended, and if it's lacking at Williams, it's lacking everywhere. And so that's where I see this kind of tangle now. It's, yes, many of these schools are integrated and many of the admissions committees are deeply trained and deeply committed, I truly believe, honestly, to diversifying not just around race, but the entire sensorium of identities and expressions of humanity. But the institutions are still based on 19th and the first half of 20th century outmoded practices of education designed to fit very particular class of white men. And while those who can play the game rise, I think society has taught us that that's not even the game we should be playing, right? And I think that that is something where I could see Dubois's language and words being so interesting now. He was just like, yes, technical education, this is good. But what more? We need more. This isn't enough. And this can't be the only path. Now I think about him calling upon, great, they're here, but how do you support them? Where is their community? Where do they get their hair done? What does religious experience look like? How are they getting back and forth? Those things are what really allow not just for equality, but equity. And equity is interesting. It would be interesting to think about if Du Bois would have even argued for equity, but we have to argue for it now. And that is something I find fascinating.